Yo, what you saying is, Spessy, the deck is done. I sat with Green Knight in a Discord call last night, and it's done. And it's really good, man. I'm super, super happy with it. There's a little bit of spice added on. You're going to like this. So, starting at the top, what cards do you always want to include? You're playing Devotion, so a good place to start is typing in Devotion. We've got Ethne, Frixenet, Oak Critters. You're just going to want to use them all the time. Apparently, I've missed Ethne. I think added on to that as well, Forest Protector, Great Oak, and then if you search Nature card as well, quite a lot of these cards are going to go in. So you're going to want Cool, Council, Fauve, two Temperings, two Rebukes and two Caresses. Tempering, not really that good. Circle of Life, not really that good. Zoltan's Company, not really that good. So none of these are auto, right? I think another then good place to start is once you've got like your high-end cards. Like Justice is worth a mention. It's probably quite good, and there's a few at 9. Obviously, Schirru is a definite include. Mullane's not bad. All these sort of cards are not terrible. Mullane, Yarp, and maybe Figus, right? You look at 8, and Pavko's here. But Pavko's a good place to start talking about, because actually Green Knight and Saber, when I was speaking to them about this deck, were both like, okay, the problem with Pavko is if he gets answered, he just plays for 5 points and he's 8 provisions. Whereas if you compare him to the Triumph Boar, this card plays for 7 with 2 damage, guaranteed worst case, because you get the Zeal on this card. Whereas with Pavko, you don't. And actually, I was like, yeah, okay, but Pavko, I can keep him alive. I can be a little bit cute and clever. Isn't that good? But Green Knight's like kind of basically saying it's not, because even if you get this to stick, it's going to die, right? And it's not really worth it. Obviously, when he gets unanswered, he's great, but then there's a chance that your board's not getting answered and your other engines. So this is not auto-included. Actually, it's a card both Green Knight and Saber we're not huge on. And I think if you've got players like that saying it, it's probably for good reason, right? So he's not auto, but Boar and Dunker certainly are. In at 7, not really much else I'm looking at. In at 6, here's an interesting one, because you're not including quite a lot of these cards higher, like 7, 8, that you don't really want. This card becomes actually pretty good. It is actually in the deck. I wouldn't say it's one of the first cards I picked, but if you compare this card to Mullane, for instance, at 9 provisions, this card's pretty solid, right? Brienne's going to very consistently get her Zeal, so she only, even though she's only 7 power, she is going to be able to deal 3 damage in 1 pings, which of course when you're playing Schirru is really pretty good. And also you can leave this damage on the board and sort of float the damage. So, oh my god, my am I just going to carry on? Yeah, let's carry on. That was really triggering me though. Anyway, OCD. I'm sure someone was getting triggered in the chat. Hopefully I've, if you typed that comment out and posted it, you've deleted it, right? But Brienne's just pretty okay. She's not spectacular, but this is the problem. There's not really anything in at 6 you want. And there's nothing in at 7 I want. There's nothing in at 8 I want. There's maybe some stuff in 9 that I'll talk about in just a minute. Justice is again okay. Reason I don't like Justice, you can't tutor this card. Also, you're only playing 4 Provision Dwarf, so even though that's still okay because it's tempo, it's not amazing. And the fact you can't tutor it if it's stuck in your deck, like all these other cards you can tutor, it's not a nature card, so you lose a bit of value there. And also, importantly, it puts a 5 strength dwarf on the board, which obviously, okay, if they're doing random pings, that's really good. But if you're not, that's just really awkward to deal with your Schirru, right? It's not the end of the world. We've got lots of 5s already, but I'm not in love with this card. If I could tutor this card, it would be in the deck, I'm pretty sure, but I can't. So, in at 5, you guys know me, I love a Hammer Dryad, and I actually was playing 2. I think Green Knight, from talking to him, he agrees actually 1 is pretty good because you're using quite a lot of Purify cards anyway. But 2 is maybe a little bit too much because there's very few times you actually want 2 in your hand, right? It's just a nice one-off card that you can mulligan. Probably a place I should have gone before Brienne and the Hammer Dryad, though, that you're just always using is 4 provision cards. We've already got the Oak Critters because they play for 7 points. They put a tag down, the Treant tag, which is really useful. Also, your Giant Enchantresses, 7 points for 4 provisions. That's all you need to know. It's just solid. And the Miners as well. Proactive, they're also able to buff up your Schirru, buff up your engines as well. So these cards are just really auto-include before you look at the Hammer Dryad and Brienne. Because it's like, okay, what am I still going to include? We've got 19 provisions in 3 cards. So we could go for a couple more 4s and the Justice. Like you could go Abandoned Girl, but for me, this card's just kind of lackluster. It's never particularly good. Maybe you could throw a Tempering in. It's not the end of the world. But again, there's not really any good targets for this, and it just ends up getting reset. Apart from maybe Dunker, but you can always just use a Caress and sort of achieve something quite similar. So, yeah, the Skirmishers, again, not that bad. I've liked a couple of Skirmishers, but then you're putting Saskia in, which, again, isn't terrible, but it just doesn't seem that amazing. It puts 2/5 bodies in round 3. I don't basically love any of these cards for the amount of provisions, and I'd probably just rather upgrade around this area. So, what do we do? Well, yesterday I showed you having Mullane in the deck, and I still like this card quite a lot. But the big problem is it's an elf, and that kind of messes up your synergy. So, okay, what on earth are we going to do then about that? Because if I don't have Mullane, and I always want Schirru in my deck because I always want to cancel him, it means I have to call for Mullane before I can Schirru. What if I have like Oak in my deck? Then I'm just losing points. Also, what if I want to Schirru before I'm Mullane? There's some situations where you want to Schirru early, like against Syndicate, for instance, when they've put down a Slice Seductress and they've got Peaches. You probably just want to Schirru then, and that can become really awkward. Well, a nice little trick you can do, and this is the last two cards, the Circle of Lives. Bear with me, because I know this card's a weird one, right? But if there's ever a deck this card makes sense, it's in this one. We've got a ton of Symbiosis. We've got tons of damage pings, so the 3 damage can be really, really useful. That's why I love the Skirmisher so much as well. Like, I loved this card in the deck, right? You're upgrading a Skirmisher to a Circle of Life for a provision. Is it worth it? Well, okay, it plays for 1 less tempo if you don't have a Dryad down. A Symbiosis card down. But there's a good chance you would, like Frixinate. Of course, in round 3, you've got Ethnate and you've got the Hammer Dryad. So, you know, you might get the 1 point buff on, so it plays for the same amount of tempo, while also putting a Treant down, which could catch your Nature's Rebuke. That's important to remember. So, that's something. But also, there's a lot of cards you actually want to buff in your hand. For example, you've got, of course, where is he? The Treant Boar, Dunker, Brian. You've got Schirru. That is where it comes in particular, right? Let's say in round 3, I still don't draw this Mullane. I keep Schirru in my hand, but I still want to Scorch 5s. Well, that'll be a problem because you just have to play him through Council. Well, now what you can do is you can just keep him in your hand and you get a buff on him with Circle of Life. Suddenly, he's at 5 points and he can get that Scorch. Really, really interesting. Also, of course, Dunker. If you've got Dunker, he could catch some hand buffs off Dunker. Now, you need to be careful you don't obviously overdo it and he's at like 8 power and there's no 8 strength units for your opponent. But it's really interesting, right? It really is quite interesting. And yeah, like I say, with all the damage pings, this card's really not that bad. If you're going first, you probably want to mulligan this card in most matchups, but you can kill Archboars. Really importantly, you can kill Berserkers as well for Skellige, right? It plays for a lot of points against Skellige. And again, the hand buff's really, really interesting. Brienne as well, just while we talk on Brienne, she's actually a really nice, quite interestingly, she's green here and she's white here. But you can buff her, and that's quite a nice buff with Frixinate. A lot of your buffs with Frixinate feel a bit awkward because they're bronze cards or cards you want to play, or cards that transform. But Brienne's quite a nice one. So, yeah, this is the list. And I don't think there's a single card I'm really missing. Like, if you look through every card, okay, Saskia's alright. Justice is alright. Like, it's good. It's not terrible. None of this really is that good. None of this. Like, okay, Pavko, but we talked about why it's probably just incorrect. You'd rather just have a Mullane, right? And this card's so good. You can use the ranged ability to line up Schirru. And the 4 deal 4 is really, really solid as well. You've got deal 4, deal 3, and deal... And I think we've got deal 2, apart from off Brienne, you could argue. But of course, you've got leader pings. You've got Oak for more removal. What you just end up with is a very control-heavy deck. And I was using a very similar amount of removal before with Skirmishers. I had no Circle of Life, but Skirmishers. I had Mullane. I had the Rebukes. It just feels great. You've got 3 Rebukes, so Forest Protector, Rebuke. You've got 2 Circle of Lives, which is removing 3. You've got Brienne. You've got Dunker. You've got Treant Boar. You've also got, obviously, your Schirru, your Mullane, and finally, your Oak. So much removal, and you can really deal with almost every engine that comes at you. And yeah, it just feels great, man. Like, getting that carryover can be so funny sometimes. You go into a super long round, or you just go into round 3, and you've got like an Oak chilling at like massively high points. You've got your Treant, Tree, whatever it's called, your Wandering Protector, chilling at a ton of points. Of course, like Pavko would be a really nice card to buff up with those sorts of things as well. But he could still get answered. He can get locked, and okay, you can purify him, but then he's like 13 strength or something stupid, and he just gets poisoned anyway, right? So, Uprising is the matchup of choice today. Probably got time for 2 games. Let's see how we get on. I've not actually played too many games with this particular list, and my MMR is quite low compared to like a week ago. So, Circle of Lives. We're going first, so that's kind of awkward. We've got Schirru in hand. We could, of course, keep Schirru here and buff him up. I think why not, right? Like, it's kind of fine. I think we kick the Caress. I'm not sure we're going to want 2 of these But then again, how is he going to really answer Dunker? I could just go Circle of Life, and then it could be a random ping, and then I could remove something. 3 damage is also really nice against Northern Realms, because your frigate comes in off an AA 8, essentially, with armor. Let's kick 1, right? I think 1's fine. We don't want to get punished too bad, and then we kick the Miner. We could also just ditch the Schirru, right? We could just ditch the Schirru and buff something like your Forest Protector, but I think it makes sense to keep this. No surprises, I'm going to lead with Dunker. The question is, though, I mean, do we lead with Dunker? Maybe I was supposed to keep the Miner. Of course, he could Yeet Wave me. I'm feeling brave, as you can tell. I'm feeling a wee bit brave here. So the Treant Boar catches a hand buff already. Beautiful, right? Love to see that. Love to see that. I guess the danger of hand buffing Schirru is like, what does he end up at, right? That is a little bit scary, but whatever. Okay, decision time. Are we going to ping this down and get a random? So if you get the death blow, it boosts a random card. Sorry, if you don't get the death blow, it boosts a random card. I think we don't want to do that, and I think we actually want to get these down. Also means when I rebuke, I've just got that ready to go, right? It also takes out a card I don't want hand buffed, which is also why like the Dryad Enchantress next could be good, because then the Circle of Life's just always hitting a round 3 card. The Frigate's going to come in. Whether we actually want to answer this or not is another question altogether. I think because it gets the armor off the Royal Guard, it's just going to be kind of difficult to deal with. And if I play this, I've still got this carryover I'm developing, and I'm just only catching good cards, right? It's only hitting good things. So, yeah. This seems pretty good, right? You can see where the Circle of Life comes in. Especially like the random pings when you've really got quite a lot of nature cards in this deck already. And these 2 cards are just 7 points. 7 points. This is a Dryad, so it has some synergy. Like I can pop this down at times. This is an interesting one. Like, it's pretty tempting here to Dunker plus Circle of Life and just get out. Obviously, I could lead a charge rebuke. I think Dunker plus Circle of Life is just a nice way to get out of the round, right? And save my rebukes then as well. I think that's pretty good, right? So the Circle of Life, you see the utility it has again here. It means I'm getting no more hand buffs. But this should be enough to get me out, unless he's going to commit a really big card here. And then I've still got a good hand I can work with. So the botchling comes down. Now that's just a rebuke, right? Unless he's going to ping it with a leader. That's just too... I mean, like, it's just too good not to, right? There's kind of no reason not to. We might, like, why not? He just gives us that. It's just, you're not going to pass on that, right? But what have I spent so far? I've spent a Dunker. I've obviously got some nice carryover. I've spent 2 4 provision cards, and I've spent a rebuke, which I've got lots more of. Now, he's playing the Royal Guard here. I kind of just want to punish this play still. He's just being a little bit cheeky, right? Trying to stay in the round. But ultimately, I play a card, and he just does something like this again. So I'll just take my pass. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm supposed to keep pushing in this one. Like the Treant Boar was pretty good here. But, yeah. I think we're fine. And oil. Last thing we want to do is him like tempoing ahead of us. He's actually got a continuous engine down. We don't have that. Of course, if we're going second, we would have been able to stay in that for longer. We would have had double Circle of Life. But like, you've got Schirru at 5 points. What more do you need? So Council is of course hitting a Dryad, a Dwarf, or an Elf. So it could hit. It's definitely hitting Mullane. We can just keep this in our hand unless we want Schirru at 7. Balabor, Frigate. 5's a better range, right? Maybe 7 is quite good. But equally, I've not got Mullane in my hand yet, so we're not going to do that. I guess I kick the Hamadryad. He could AA, of course, and push into this, which is the danger of me passing. But you're pretty bleed resistant with Schirru, and then you're really good in a short round with cards like Oak, cards like Ethne, cards like Forest Protector. And he passes anyway, so no consideration. One thing to know about the Circle of Life that you can't do is you can't like play it on an open board. Obviously, I wouldn't play it here, but let's say I was at 10 cards and I just wanted to get some carryover. You have to have a unit to actually damage, which is a shame. Would make it even better. So we're looking for Fricks in it to buff Brienne. That would be a nice opening play. Ethne, of course, before the call. Find a Circle of Life. This isn't bad to keep, I don't think. It's still 3 removal at the end of the day. I think I'd rather have this than a Caress. I think 3 removal is pretty handy still. And ultimately, it's still a 5-point play. Maybe we want to keep this. Maybe we want to keep this. Maybe we ditch Brienne. Okay, we find Mullane. Now the decision is on council. What are we hitting at the moment? We're hitting Fauve. Let's ditch this. Yeah, council onto Fauve, onto... Oh, it's not. I'm talking nonsense. So I was supposed to ditch... I misplayed there, right? I was supposed to just ditch Mullane and call Mullane in off council, but it's fine. No biggie. This is going to get Falliboard straight away. Yeah, slight misplay. I'm still getting used to this one. Unfortunately, we obviously miss... Well, we find Oak off cool. And this could still show me Fauve onto this. It obviously always shows me the minor. But I'm pretty sure I was supposed to kick Mullane there, but it's all good. It is what it is, innit? So 5 is the range that we're going to most likely Schirru anyway, so we just ping this down. This just gets Einsaced? I don't know what he's called. But it takes a leader buff if we do it now. Yeah, I'm a bit annoyed about my Mullane play. But it is what it is. I think the Caress was pretty good to keep here. Of course, I've got Rebuke here. I've also got the Circle of Life. That's the other thing it gives you. It gives you an option off Forest Protector. Did he need to do 2 leader charges? I'm pretty sure he didn't. And it actually is really nice for us because it just puts 2 5s down, which we're never going to touch these, right? Which is a bit of an awkward one for us because I now want to play uninteractively. So I've got a couple of options. I could Fauve. I could play my council now, right, and just call in a minor. That's pretty good. If it hits the Hammer Dryad, I probably don't take it. If it takes the Enchantress, I definitely don't take it. And I've always got the backup of a Dwarf. I've got no other Symbiosis procs because I missed out on Fricks in it, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah, we don't want to bleed anything. Another Dryad down would be good for Brienne as well. If we find the Hammer Dryad, we just take the minor here. We want a row stack. We've also now got the Treant down on the board, which is another reason it's really nice to be able to... you want to call for Oak if it's Oak you're looking for last play. Whereas this is something that the council, when you're not relying on council for Schirru, you can call in much sooner. He's also probably not worried about Schirru anymore, right? This is starting to look slightly tempting for Schirru. I mean... Buff this up. Is this just my Schirru now? I think it probably is. So I put Schirru down. I buff Ethne up with the minor. And then I go ping. 7. The problem is the Sentinel comes out. So I have to like ping my own unit, which seems really weird. So maybe I'm just waiting a turn. Yeah, I think we're waiting a turn. I can bleed this, right? We'll buff Ethne because we know that we're going to still Scorch 5s anyway. I've still only got 1 Dryad down, so this doesn't have a Zeal. But if I've used Leader, this does have Zeal. This is Oak, remember, as well. I think we wait on this. It's not the end of the world that he's got the frigate. Obviously, we'd like to shut it down as soon as possible, but it's fine. Egmont coming in. That is a rebuke, for sure. So of course he is just getting quite a lot of 2 strength units off of this, which is less than ideal for sure. Especially when he Voimirs them. Maybe we were just supposed to have taken this sooner, but it didn't quite work out with leader. Just another rebuke. I could also Malane that, but there's no reason not to rebuke here. Also just lining itself up for a 5 nice and easily, right? Looking good. Looking very, very good. You see the power this deck has. Just all the cards are really good. You don't really have bad cards in this deck. Okay, you could say Circle of Life is bad, but is it? It's not really bad, right? It's really not. It's pretty flexible. And if that's like, I feel like that card's okay when it's like the only card that feels weird. If that makes sense. So he's probably going to buff up. Yeah. So that's a bit of a... But Malane puts this down to 6. So let's just do that, right? You can see it's all working together nicely. Oak as well. What you do need to be careful of, this back row is very full. These wandering treants. So you call for Oak, and if a treant spawns in here, it can fill the row up. So that's something you need to be very aware of. But you can just see it. This deck is the list, right? Everything feels good. We've got the Circle of Life carry over on Schirru. So that's all stem from this. It let me cancel earlier. Okay, it wasn't the biggest deal. I hit a minor, but the minor still did pretty well for us, right? It played for quite a lot of points. Voimir comes down another 5. Visigoth is coming in imminently. He's also a 5, so maybe we just wait. I don't think there's any reason not to wait. But what do I do? I think I just do it now, right? Nice. And we can play this last as well because we know that I've got a Dryad coming off the Precision Strike. I didn't really talk about much of the Sentinels, about why you don't use those. Most of the time it's because you actually just end up using your lead ability, not with the Death Blow. This one might be a bit different. I might actually end up using the Death Blow with my leader here. But normally you don't. As you can see here. Any reason? Yeah, Visigoth comes in, so I never float the damage here. Just do that. And of course, a big Oak finisher, and he's got Baron and Oak in his hand, or an Oil and Oak, an Oil and Visigoth rather. I was expecting to get Baron and Visigoth, but look how easily we won this game. Really easy. Don't spawn in the back row wandering. Oh, actually, we did want it to spawn in the back row. Oops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Adios. And look how good that felt, man. Like, look at how good that felt. I'm sure you guys can get behind this deck after seeing that performance, right? I'm sure you're already wanting to craft it. So, yeah. I think that's all you need to see, right? I'm pretty sure that's all the evidence you need. I did tank my MMR a lot. But we'll get this back up, and I'm pretty sure we'll get it higher because, yeah, that's how I like playing with decks. I experiment in losing games, seeing what works, what doesn't, and yeah, big thank you to Green Knight for spending quite a lot of time listening to me bumble on about this deck. 'Cause I've been a little bit obsessed with it in the last few days, and he's actually listened, you know. And the list I had was very similar. I think the change I made that he made most recently when I was chatting to him yesterday is getting rid of Pavko and putting in Malane. And then 1 Hammer Dryad goes... Because I was only using like 1 Oak Critters or 1 Dryad Enchantress. And he's just like, bro, you've got to include these cards. You ditch your Hammer Dryad. And then you improve Pavko to Malane. And jobs are good and just works. So, yeah. Double Circle of Life and Dunker going second. Yes, please. Don't mind if I do. So, the Caress is pretty good to protect Dunker. The Hammer Dryad's a good round 1 card as well. It's a nice option on the Caress. The Oak Critters is pretty good. Is this just a good hand? I think I'd quite like a Miner, to be honest. I don't think I was supposed to ditch that card. I find it anyway. Maybe it was the Hammer Dryad we kick. I think it's just a decent card round 1. The thing is, we want to try and keep this alive, right? It's a definite thing. I think we just go Dunker. If Dunker gets answered, it feels kind of bad. But it's not the end of the world, right? I mean, the other thing you could obviously argue is you could just Circle of Life her now. Which is not very good. It's not that bad, because these are all turning into Ethereals, though. We play this, and then how does he actually kill Dunker? That's interesting. That is interesting. Death Shadow. This is again where you want to put a mine. I mean, you could put the Hammer Dryad down first. Because this kind of, like, if he's just chilling on... she's never going to get parasited. Again, you don't really want her to catch hand buff, so I think it's fine. I think Dunker was probably fine to put down first. I guess this kind of plays around Pred Dive. And also, like, he's most likely to just get his Ethereal up and running now, and then Dunker me. And then, so this was wrong. I think I was just supposed to go for Dunker no matter what here. Or I was supposed to buff her up. This was just wrong, but that's fine. Because ultimately, if he, obviously, like, he might kill this Hammer Dryad with a Strigger or something like that, but he couldn't kill Dunker with that anyway, and ultimately he gets his engine up and running, and if he's sitting on something that can remove Dunker anyway, then I've just wasted a whole turn, right? And let him develop this engine. Nice hand buff. Unfortunately, nothing else we really want to buff. We kind of do want to play the Oak Critters down soon as well, just for simply the fact it won't catch the hand buffs then. So, is he going to... Don't do it. Don't do it. This is too good not to do. Imagine bleeding a Hammer Dryad. Feels bad. Also, maybe this was just a Circle of Life, right? It was perfect. Probably was the Circle of Life. But to be fair, we don't really need the Death Blow because we play the Oak Critters next. And then it's just buffing something good, right? It just is buffing something good. Now look at this deck before, man. We did well going first the last game because you can just buff Dunker up. And now look at us go. We're just on absolute cruise control here. I guess we row stack just in case we want to Oak this round to win on even. And we're just getting all the hand buffs. We've got double Circle of Life. We are happy as Larry. Again, if I just played it slightly better first turn, we would have been looking even better, right? We would have had an extra hand buff. But it could have been an extra point on the board because it could have hit the Oak Critters or the Hammer Dryad. So basically, I think that's the way of looking at it. We could just have an extra point. So let's see if that impacts us. What a card this is, though. A Neuromancy. Obviously, I'm going to rebuke that, right? For reach. The question is, do I have enough reach? I've got 2 points here. He's losing, what, 2 as well? Yeah, we've got enough. This is a 13, 14 point play. Is it... Yeah, we've got enough. I can just do this, I'm pretty sure. This feels so good, man. I've actually not played many games with this list, but I've been looking forward to playing it all day. I'm pretty sure we've got enough with the Rebuke plus Dunker. We could always Oak if not. Oh my goodness. Say passes. Let's find out. I've still not done the maths. Oh. Well, we can use the leader charge, it's fine. I should have oaked maybe still? I don't know. We go for a long round 3 against monsters Ethereal. He's already played Ethereal. I don't know. We're fine. It's not ideal. I should have done the maths, but I think we're still correct to play into that round. Probably. Let myself down a wee bit, but it is what it is. I guess if you look back to that extra point, I just would have... If I just didn't make my initial play, I would have an extra point in... I would have an extra leader charge in round 3 if I just led with Dunk. I think that's a fair way of assessing it. So Frixenet has a really nice target on Brienne. Of course, the Fauve is a nice one as well, but this is just points. Whereas on Brienne, like, there's actually value in having her at 6. Because you might want to float the pings. It's most like, well, I was going to say it's most likely Crohn's. Obviously, it is Crohn's. Looking pretty decent. Of course, I would rather have those 2 pings of leader charge, but it's not that much that we've missed out on. Okay, let's look at our Schirru. So I could call for Mullane and then council for Schirru. Anything else I want to call for? Not massively. We obviously just want to try and find the Mullane in our hand. The Miner's another way of buffing up Schirru. Of course, I just might want to call for Schirru. Bove's got some nice flexibility there. I guess we're ditching the Enchantress. I think the Miner might be better. Pointless, but yeah, we find the Mullane, so council is hitting her. Nice. If not, you can call for Mullane, and that's why also, like, it's not that bad with Mullane. You don't feel that bad about it. Like, there's still going to be some times where you don't find either, but like even then, you saw I drew Schirru. I could have just kept Schirru in my hand and then Bovade a Circle of Life, or even Shrimp Protected a Circle of Life. So it just feels super flexible. Circle of Life gives you so much value. Really love it, man. It's a shame we didn't get to play both in round 1. So Ethne first, then Bricks in it most likely. These are my Schirru targets. As soon as they line everything up, so we just forget about these. Love Ethne, and it makes more sense to play Ethne first, just in case you want to, like, I don't know, call for something or Fove into one of these. I mean, I could call for Boar as well, Treant Boar. Damn. We've got the Hand of Dreams. The deck just feels so good, man. You don't miss Pavko that much either. You really don't. He's just a bit of a liability, as Green Knight was saying. And Saber, when I was chatting to Saber about the deck previously too. So yeah, man, it's great to actually have this deck I've been working on the last few days feel so good. Great. So we could just play a Miner first and buff this up. I'm pretty sure that's the play. Obviously we could Fove into a Rebuke, but seems a bit bad. We're not in a rush to put this down particularly. We might lose out on like a point or two if I end up, you know. I mean, there is obviously just an argument to Caress it. Caress does play for a lot of points. I think Thunders are probably a bit better though. Fricks in it, buffing up Brienne. What's not to love about this deck, man? You've got everything. It's just a shame. Just a shame how different they look in between their cards. That is a little bit weird. So a Strigger taking out one of my young Dryads. Nice trade. 5s on the board. I said I was going to Miner first, right? I guess this line of play I've done, I'm just going to do this. Would like to play the Miner to get this at... What is this going to give me? Treant Boar? Oh, it's going to give me Schirru, guys. Oh, it's the worst card. You. We actually don't Miner now. We actually play this. This puts up to 6 straight away, and Schirru's coming in next turn, right? So I ping the whatever she's called at the back there, Matter down. The 2 damage just hits probably whatever else he plays. And then in comes... Oh, wow. So I just actually hit the armor with Schirru here. Oh, it's a pretty heads-up play. What he's done here is he misaligns my Schirru. Oh, no, it doesn't. I was going to say it misaligns my Schirru because it procs to Thrive. Nope. Oh, bless him. Bless him, lad. I need to work on my leader here. never mess around with Squirtail leaders, so I'll find a good emote. Squirtail's not something I've played in much of Homecoming because they've not had things as cool as this, man. Look at... Make sure I'm doing it right. Look at the state of this deck, man. What is not to love?
What do you want?
Oh, Jesus. Oh, Jesus. Okay, guys, we'll leave it there. I'm going to have loads more Schirru gameplay. We'll leave it there for the time being. I'm going to have loads more. I'll bring like a full deck guide to you. And hopefully we will be able to see... I don't know, like... Jeez. Hopefully we'll just be able to see this climb so high because it feels so good, man. I love it. Absolutely love it. Thank you so much for watching. I will be posting a video tomorrow. And I'll also be streaming shortly after this video goes live. And I'll be streaming tomorrow. There's also top 16 qualifiers this weekend, which could be worth a watch. I know Green Knight's playing it, so I'd like to watch his games. And might try and commentate some of those on my Twitch. It's just without the observer mode we had for the Invitational. It's a bit less of a good viewer experience. So we'll see. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. Take care. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks so much for all the support. One love.